Well, welcome to another episode of At Witt's End. This is the 30th episode, so we have some special guests. But I'm Ken, that's Carson, and I'll introduce these schmucks in a minute. Carson's in Upper Austria in a town called Linz. He's one of the coaches of JKU University's Astros,
How
and
many
I'm
miles away?
6,000 miles away.
There you
And
go.
you're 9 p.m. at night. We're 12 noon on the coast of California. Well, inland in beautiful
Not on the
Sacramento.
coast.
So, that's the coast. So, with that, let's get it going. We'll do some introductions. Or go ahead.
Yeah, so I just wanted to thank you guys for coming on and everyone in the audience that's joining us right now. Thanks for joining in. So a quick introduction why we're all here. So this is football, right? This is American football. So we all love the game. We've all played the game. We've coached the game. So we're here to talk football today and connect people across the world. So like he just mentioned, we're 6,000 miles away today, and we're connecting guys from the middle of the European continent all the way to the west coast of America to talk this game we love. And so that's kind of the main reason. I hope we can get some kind of knowledge transfer and education. So those two guests sitting there are very experienced guys, been there, done that for a lot of different things. And so it'd be good just for the players on my team. It'd be good to hear what they have to say, get advice, and anything what you guys are saying is welcome. And then for you guys, we'd also like to share a little bit of the ACSL story. So we'll talk about that a little bit more later. But kind of the main like how everything's been brought together and how we've got to this point. So yeah, that's kind of why we're here, and we'll have some call-ins from our audience members later on. But for now, I'd like to pass the torch back off to my other host here for some guest introductions of the guys sitting with them in California.
Yeah, I'll interject also. One of the things is that when you moved to Austria to get your master's at JKU and found out they were starting a American football team, I was pretty fascinated and shocked by it. And it seems like Austria is kind of a growing market for American football. The EFL champions are the Vienna Vikings. So, and then you showed me some of the games. They are broadcast, and I've watched them online. So I'm excited about the whole. It's a festival feel, a little different than here in the States. They all play in Vienna, Austria, in the same stadium. It's sponsored by Jägermeister. There's a beer garden. They have a DJ who's also the MC, but they're having fun. I think here in the States, football is something. It's cultural. You grow up with it, and it's a professional sport as well. It's kind of all-consuming, you might say, in the States. So with that, I'll introduce a good friend, Bob Sebring. Tell us a little bit about yourself. You're a California boy. Well, no, I take that back.
Kind of, sort of. Well, I was born in Pittsburgh, PA, Jersey, but yeah, I'm a California guy.
Is that a football town, Pittsburgh?
No, I don't know. Steelers, Eagles, yeah, whatever. Well, I'm on the western side of PA, which was the only way to go. It's black and gold, all Steelers. But no, I'm a California kid. My dad moved out. He was in the steel industry, and then we moved out to Southern California, Orange County. But as this guy back here, my whole life, all the way through high school, was quarterback and safety. So I'll maybe touch on that a little bit. But yeah, that's here, and then ultimately moved up to Sacramento, and unfortunately moved in next to this person, and I've been stuck with them the last almost 15, 20 years now.
It's been a rough time.
Oh, geez.
But Saddleback College. Well, where'd you play high school ball?
So high school, when we were in high school, it was 10, 11, and 12. So sophomore, junior, and senior, which I still think it should be that way. Junior high was 7, 8, 9. So first 2 years, I went to one high school called Villa Park High School, and then I transferred my senior year, which was considered the crosstown powerhouse of El Medina. And we were like, there was, in this day and age, it wasn't really like everything's max preps and everything's in rankings, but this school that I went to my senior year, we were the top ranked team down in Orange County. And the irony of the whole thing is we ended up playing at Anaheim Stadium for the city championship. We lost in triple overtime. But so from there, being a quarterback, but back then, Carson, it was more of you roll out, throw. It wasn't stats. It was a whole different world. So the 4 to 5, 6 schools that were recruiting me at the time, being 17 years old, I was like, okay, I guess this is it. And I remember making a trip to a particular college in Arizona and driving back, and my dad was the voice that I needed to hear. And I'd always thought that growing up back east, that to me, I always dreamt of playing against the best. And that was just me personally. And that meant the Big Ten Conference. And so the only way to do that, and I remember going to a camp that summer, and Daniel will allude to this, that's where I met the second most influential coach person in my life up until 2 years ago when he passed away, was Bill Cunardy. And then he was at Saddleback Junior College in Mission Viejo. So I did that, blah, blah, blah. And things went very well down there. And the accolades came in, and then the opportunities came to. It was funny because I had narrowed it down to Missouri, UCLA, and Illinois, and my mom was really upset because she wanted me to go right up the street. And I said, it was as soon as I went back to Illinois, I said, this at the time when they were recruiting me, their last game they played was against Alabama and Bear Bryant, and Illinois should have won it at the end, but it was Bear Bryant, who's a legendary coach in college football, like Nick Saban. And it was like, okay, I just looked at the level and I'm like, okay, wow, this is where I want to at least put it out there to say, do I have it or not? Because you never know.
Yep.
Okay. And so that's where I ended up at Illinois. So
great school. And then drafted by the Oilers. And for those of you that don't know, that is
they
now
don't exist anymore.
Yeah, it's a Tennessee Titans, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So and now
it's in the 1900s.
It was back when automobiles were horse-drawn.
Yeah. The number one draft pick in my class was Bo Jackson, and I remember being there, and it was just going from Saddleback, and at the time we were at Saddleback, I didn't know. That's kind of how it was. Saddleback was considered one of the top JCs in the country, not in the state, and it was like a who's who with all of my teammates going to all these schools. And I just thought that's the way it was, because when you're around all those type of athletes, you dominate everybody, a lot of them because of them, not me, but just the teammates that I had. And then it opens up doors. And then when I got to Illinois, it was a whole different level as far as athleticism, speed, and so then I went to the Oilers, and wow. And then 2 years after that, ended up in the CFL, which is Canadian Football League, and then came back down my last year with the Chargers, and was let go after the second game. And I said, that's it. I don't want to do the game anymore, the journey, if you will.
And Bob's been actively coaching, giving camps. If you drive by his house on a Saturday morning, you'll see probably 5 to 8 high school and college kids in his garage working out. So football definitely been his life. It's been fun.
Yeah,
it still is.
Yeah, it's a big part of me, and I don't want to go on and bore the listeners, but I will say this: when I got out, I hated the game. I resented everything about it. I hated coaches. I resented coaches. All kidding aside, because I saw the ugly side of the game, and I questioned everything. And when you start peeling back the onion layer, you go, wait a second. And the guy that the two men in my life was, obviously my dad and Bill Cunardy. That's what would draw that. I wanted to be like that. That's what inspired me. That style of coaching or that style of teaching or whatever. And I was not involved with that at all at different levels. It was more blah 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 blah, yelling and screaming, and all I heard was the tone, not the message. And I found out later, as I got into this will be my 30th year coaching now. It's there's so many coaches out there that they talk so much, but they say so little, and they just bow 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 bow. And I promised myself I always look at things like, hey, what would I want to hear? How would I want to be? How would I want to be taught? How am I actually going to learn this? And that gets back down to teaching and coaching. You know, but yeah, I want
So
to get to this guy
yeah,
because this is the
the
young
young
stud.
buck. So right here is Daniel Niffen. We go back a ways. He and your younger brother Jack played together. I remember Jack's freshman year and then sophomore year JV, and they really didn't have a quarterback. There were a couple of guys. Your brother was one of the guys working out with him. I think there's a picture up there of him throwing that 70-yard pass or something. So he came home one day. I was in this studio, and he said a kid from Texas has moved to Rockland. And then I saw the kid, and I thought, man, if there's a windstorm, this guy's blown away. We couldn't pack pounds on him for anything. But if you know anything about American football, and especially high school football, Texas is at a different level than any other state I've been to. They build stadiums the size of universities. So Texas is football country. So, Daniel moved here. I got to be very good friends with his parents. They said they had researched the area and wanted to come to Rockland. And so Daniel worked out, went to camps, worked with everybody, became our starting quarterback. From there, I don't want to jump in and say everything.
Well, I will because I was on the coaching staff
Yes.
at that point, and I would say, forget being the best quarterback in our area, not just our team, obviously, but he was our best receiver. And I remember he could pretty much play any position that we had. And the thing that I kept saying in the staff meetings, like, how can we get him in like a shotgun and throw to himself? Because he's our best quarterback and best receiver. Is there a way that he could throw the ball and then run out there as a receiver and catch the ball? And we didn't figure that out yet. But he was an amazing addition to what was desperately needed in that program at Rockland at the time.
And from there, went on to Sac State, became the starting quarterback there. From there, I'll let him jump in. Our fourth guest has arrived. He had such a long commute. For those of you that don't know, this is Jack. We happen to have the same last name as Carson. He is.
Are they related?
They are related, surprisingly, yeah. So,
distantly, right?
Yeah. I just spoke a little bit about Jack earlier. So Jack and Daniel played together in high school, became good friends. Jack went on in college to pursue baseball in Minnesota. Daniel stayed here and became the D1 starting quarterback for Sac State. And with that, hop in, Daniel.
Well, I don't know how much I can add
Gave
to
it
that.
all.
Thank you both. So I grew up in Fort Worth, Texas, which is the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Started playing football when I was 5. A lot of people say it's like a religion there, and they're right. It very much is. So ended up moving out to California my sophomore year, or the very end of my freshman year. Didn't quite know what I was gonna get when you go from Texas to California. Kind of assumed I'd walk in and there wasn't going to be a Jimmy Lockray who could make every throw from every body angle possible. And so came out here, played JV my sophomore year, which is normal, and started on varsity as a junior. Played 2 seasons there that were a little disappointing for me, as injury ridden, kinda. Never quite felt like I got out what I put in, but went on to play at Sac State. Was a preferred walk on there, earned a scholarship after my first year, and became the backup my redshirt freshman year. My redshirt sophomore year, I started for 4 games until I tore my shoulder completely apart, and played very sparingly after that. Took my last snap in 2016. Uh, like Coach Sebs here, I resented a lot of it for a good while. You go from being the starter and everybody loving you to, oh, where's Hurt Boy at?
Where's
So
your commitment?
so it was rough there for a little bit. Ended up completely getting over it. I think what you learn about football as you get older is what was, the blast of physically playing the game was more about the brotherhood and the life lessons you learn along the way. So I think that sums it up for me.
Charitable.
Yeah, I want to jump in real quick and mention. So you mentioned Jimmy Lockray in there, and so Jimmy Lockray was the quarterback of my class, so he was our starting quarterback. He was also the varsity starting quarterback his junior season, where he quarterbacked our team to our only state championship appearance.
Which we lost in
And
the final.
yeah, section title. So he was pretty good. He also went on to play or go to Boise State, then another transferred universities. I think he's playing,
In
like a lot of us, internationally in Japan still. So he's still playing football, I believe, internationally. So kind of a cool connection there. But you also got bookend on the other side by another great quarterback who went on to play professionally in a different sport, Logan Webb. Um, so you were surrounded by some quarterbacks there, and yeah, Logan ended up he's a starting pitcher in the Major League Baseball for the San Francisco Giants. Actually, he's leading the MLB in innings thrown this year, so he's just got I think $100 million contract extension too. So
5 years, 90.
Yeah, 5 years and 90 million.
close
Yeah.
enough. Yeah, close enough.
Cheap.
But I would say
Yeah.
his success is due to his experience at Rockland football at the high school.
I think he actually said that as well.
Yeah.
Coach
Well,
Adams.
yeah, he actually brought Coach Adams to that
Thanks. Yeah.
ceremony in San Francisco
Yeah.
to celebrate.
Yeah, Logan Webb, guy who went to play professional baseball, has gone on record awards ceremonies. There was a television stuff, multiple things, and he thanked his football coach in high school for everything he did to support him to get him to where he was in baseball. So it's a telling story of where the impact that football coach and football had on the life of a guy that didn't end up playing football professionally. He ended up playing baseball professionally.
Yeah, but somebody mentioned it earlier. I think the thing about football, whether it's youth football on up to the university level and beyond, it becomes a brotherhood. I think probably these guys, I'll be long gone, but they'll be sitting in rocking chairs and probably call each other. They'll still be friends the rest of their lives. They've been, well, Jack was in Daniel's wedding. Jack hasn't had a wedding yet, so there's about that. But and briefly, Jack.
So what are you saying?
Yeah, hey, he's looking maybe a nice Austrian girl out there. So, but Jack played in high school up as D end and tight end, right? And yeah,
and injured.
But as you've heard from everybody, there's everybody's been hurt playing the game, and I know maybe in Austria, you get a broken finger or something, you think you're out for the season. Jack tore his ACL, shoulder surgery. Bob's had everything. So it's a sport. You're gonna get hurt. Guys will work through that. They'll play hurt. So it's definitely a game where you got to give 100, 110% constantly. But the rewards are it's a fun game. You love it. It becomes part of your life. So
Bob, I don't know if you remember, Bob, but yeah, it was I think the most defining moment in Rockland High School football, maybe all of Sacramento High School football, but the stop at the end of the game against Grant, 2009. I don't know if you remember, BJ, one of your linebackers, had a dislocated shoulder, and when he refused to come out of the game for a player to, he was eventually forced out of the game with a dislocated shoulder. Or at the time, who was our best player, our running back, when moved on to play at Stanford, replaced him. But that was a story of like a guy playing so passionate for the game. One of you guys with a dislocated shoulder, his arm was hanging at the time in the biggest moment, I think personally in Sacramento football history. Um, and yeah, it was a crazy kind of thing to do.
God, you talk about BJ. If that guy had any of the intangibles of size and speed, he'd be playing on Sundays. That guy was a freak football player.
Yeah.
That team, I think some of the more impact guys, if you want to refer to that, we obviously had, like the Holdens and the Jimmies that were athletically so talented. But I look at that year as a Sean Moore, Danny Lassard, and everybody always has to say, "Oh, if you don't go on, you're not good." Like what? You're terrific for what we asked of you on the team. So I remember that, Carson, so specifically because not only was that a defining moment in Sacramento, but it was really for us in Rockland, the city of Rockland, because we were the entitled, spoiled kids. Let's be honest. And then we were playing the bad boys, the returning state champions of Grant High School, who'd
Yeah.
beaten Long Beach Poly the year before. So we were hoping, in other words, the press was hoping, God, can they even score a touchdown against the big bad boys? And
They were nationally ranked, I believe, at the
they
time
were,
too.
and
yeah,
it was I remember putting Jackson Cummings in because I kept thinking, we just kept running 55 double pinch, and I remember we kept slanting our tackles on our ends to plug up the AB gap to try to get everything to bounce. So I put Jackson Cummings in there for speed, saying, okay, he's going to go right into. And they were so stubborn. Grant said, "We have 4 downs to get 1 yard. It's a done deal. We've won the game. We're going to go play for the championship." And we just didn't get the memo on the defensive side. So
You actually gave him an extra down.
what's that?
You actually gave them an extra down. They had 5 downs to score from the
Sean
1 yard
Moore
line.
dove over the pile, and that was illegal. So it was first down. They couldn't move the ball anymore because the tip was
it was on the goal
on the
line.
goal line. And then basically we held them again for 4, and on the 4th down, the kid kicked from the hash mark and he hooked the field goal. And
Yeah,
we Rockland football, the players deserved to win that game. The game really wasn't as close as the score, and it should never have come down to that. But I think we shocked people.
yeah.
I really
I
do.
remember our first play as an offense coming out in that game. So you mentioned they were overwhelmingly sized. They had one kid. He was a Samoan kid. He was going D1. I think he was 6'3", 350 pounds. Played
The
nose tackle.
we played at Cal, and we
Yeah,
tripled.
yeah. So our first play was a veer play straight up the middle. We triple teamed him and pushed him 15 yards down the field, and they did that just to send a message to him and to define and set the tone for the game. That was the only purpose of the play. They didn't care if we lost yards. The purpose of the play was to move him 15 yards down the field like they did. They triple teamed him.
Yeah,
So
you alluded to the injury thing. Daniel was talking as far as I completely shredded my shoulder, and he did. And we talk about everybody wants to compare. Oh, they're softer nowadays, and back in the day we were so much tougher, and blah blah blah. But there is that point of, are you hurt or are you injured? And I think Ken talked about it. I don't know if nowadays the parents define the boo boo or owie for the kid and say, okay, I have a broken finger, I have a broken wrist, I'm out. And that's the end of the story. And it's a different day and age. So we have to evolve as coaches and as, because it's a liability thing. But it is difficult to swallow, especially if you're, not to sound like a rockhead by saying this, but there are some times where so many kids could continue to play with things like that, and yet they choose not to for whatever reason.
Right.
And the sympathy and everything, and wow, that's more attractive. They want that instead of actually competing and playing. It's like,
And it's interesting. I know both on the state team and these guys' team,
mm-hmm.
there were kids that we considered soft, but they did too, because they didn't step up when they had a boo boo. They sat out the whole season in dress clothes or half the season. So
yeah, Jack decided that his ACL was.
Yeah,
I mean, Jack, he tears his ACL. Like, just put an ace bandage on it. And
yeah.
Have
They just
a Red
don't make
Bull
them
and
like they
keep
used
going.
to.
yeah, I think that picture's up there too, where he's being walked off the field. But Jack, his senior year was going to be a great season, probably all conference for him. It was against Granite Bay, again another rival. For our high school, the SFL is a pretty dominant football league for this area. A lot of great teams, but Granite Bay was a rival. I think you went up, deflected a pass. You went up with a guy and you came down in a spiral. And
So basically, they had a tight end that was 6'4", about like 220, and we didn't really have anyone that could keep up with him. That we could really spare on the defense, because we didn't want to have certain matchups with this guy because either they were too small. So my whole job was just to follow that kid wherever he lined up. And if he blocked, I would rush. If he went out for a pass, I would go out. And that one, I want to say he ran like a post or something, and I see him jump up. So I jump, and I tipped it, and I was kind of Air Jordan, legs sprawled out.
Yeah, you wrapped up with him on the way down,
And
if I
then
remember.
I wish I still had the video because it's disgusting, but I didn't feel it. His leg landed on my ankle, and he was going that way, and I was going this way, and my knee went with him.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel it, but
you heard it.
I didn't hear it either. I just got up, and then I immediately fell over, and I tried getting up again, and I fell over again, and I just kind of laid down, and I was like, I don't think I could stand up.
Yeah.
And
I think ironically, somebody that I grew up with in high school, her son was the first one, I think, on the field, and his dad, the Coolies. So they were more concerned because I was on the sidelines, didn't know. And as a parent, you don't know. You don't want to run out and carry your son off the field. So you let them analyze things. And when you see the physician go out, then you know something's up. So like I said earlier, playing football, it's a dangerous sport. It's a great sport, and you're going to get hurt at some time. So it's how you manage that hurt, that injury.
So yes, we get a question from Bob, and you brought it up just now a little bit, but you talked about how the game has changed and evolved since you were playing, and you've seen it evolve as a coach. So what are some of the big things you've seen from when you were a player and that are different nowadays as a coach and in the current state of football?
It's a great question, Carson, but I think it's all predicated on what the NFL does, because now it's a business. I think people forget it's the largest entertainment. It's the biggest entertainment business in the world, the NFL. So everything is directed with the change in rules. Jack talked about matchups, and that's always been there since day one. The game hasn't changed in regards of things in what they call the trenches, the one-on-one battles, but the game now is very difficult to watch from a defensive point of view because everything is geared to the offense, because it's not really exciting for people nowadays to watch the old 70s and 80s of 13-7 games or 21-14, and they rush for 40 yards and they pass for 120 yards. That doesn't sell. And so everything trickles down to now what they call the NCAA, and college football is maybe the second biggest business. And that is completely the same. I mean, if people don't, you look at what's going on right now with the NIL, it's a good 2 years into it. Now it's really been exposed. But the legal part of, there was always the NIL 30 years ago, 40 years ago, but now it's all legal. So to answer your question, I think everything has switched with back in the day, the quarterback, let's say, because we've got one behind me, was under center. Those days have long gone. Just the way the clock is managed and the way you can't touch any sort of an offensive player that's out in the perimeter, it's just a very offensive friendly. So it's very difficult to scheme in a way where back in the day you had 7 or 8 guys in the box because they're going to go off tackle. Now it's all dime packages with 6 DBs, and it's almost like basketball on the turf.
7-on-7.
Yeah, and it is difficult because we always, as old school traditionalists, back in the day of the Tatums of the Raiders and the Ronnie Lotts, the Jack Lamberts and Matt Millens, and you go on and on and on, would have been out of the league because of so many fines. It's just a very different game, and that's not how our society's wired anymore. That's not. It just doesn't sell. And so that's gone all the way down to high school. And now in high school, it is becoming, not in this area that we live, but when he talked about Texas and Florida and parts of Georgia and all down the south, it's a huge business. The coaches are compensated, financially, and the players are now being paid in high school tremendous amount of money to play. So and everything's geared towards recruiting and points, and that's just the way it is. It's very difficult as us old farts to.
Yeah, I mean,
to watch it.
we
It's
always
hard.
talk about. I don't think we could coach, or my coaches back in the day would not be allowed to coach anymore. But I did want to say, Bob's right. But what intrigues me about the ACSL football in Austria is it's kind of gone back to its core. There are no scholarships. It's really not a business. It's kind of a festival. I think these guys would be shocked. Your players had to pay for their own equipment out of pocket. And I think you can get some sponsors, but I mean, they're paying to get pads. But on the other side of it, you're practicing 2 times a week. These guys in the height of summer when it's over 100 degrees had 2-a-days. In high school, they were getting up at 5 to go hit the weight room before going to class. So I like the simplicity of what's going on in Austria. I'm looking forward to going to the inaugural season for you guys. So I'm expecting a win out of the Astros first game. And so, they split their season. And correct me if I'm wrong, Carson. You have 4 games in the fall, then there's a break, and you have 4 more games in the spring? Or how's that work? And then you have the championship game, which they call the Summer Bowl, in July.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know exactly how it'll be structured with the addition of the new team, but it's 2 games in the fall, and then 2 or 3 games in the spring, and then the playoffs into the championship. Yeah, because right now in our league we have 5 teams. Our team will be the 6th team entering the league.
The first one outside of Vienna,
Yeah, correct.
the capital.
So yeah, you
That's
talked.
awesome. And when I was in college, it was, you played Saturday. You woke up Sunday, felt like you got hit by a bus. You went in to see the trainers. They would try to do their best to get you right. They'd ice and stim you to death. You'd wake up Monday, still felt like you got hit by a bus. You'd practice. It was more of like a cardio practice to get your body moving. Tuesday, you still semi felt like death. Wednesday, it's like, okay, we're starting to feel normal. Thursday's a walkthrough. Friday's a travel day. And then Saturday is like, finally, I feel back to myself, all to start over again and just be broken for another week.
Yeah, I mean, and these guys, they right now they're all traveling to Vienna. They all play on a Saturday. I don't know what games start at 2 and go till the last game. And like I said, I think they have a DJ that's also the announcer. So it's kind of like a club athletic event. And then they go out to the clubs afterwards, the crowd. So it's more like a little football festival.
Yeah.
And that's like you said, it's a job almost, a painful job at times. There's great reward, but I mean, they're doing it for the fun of the game. And that's what I like about it. So
Yeah, there's Yeah, after you finish a game, unlike going back to the training room, back in the States, college football there, the guys hit the snack bar here, and grab a beer to share with their friends, and then they'll go back and take. And that's while fully in pads still, and then just walking off the field, they'll get handed a beer, and then have some conversations, maybe have a smoke, and then go get dressed,
Yeah,
and
didn't you
get ready to
say
go
at one
back
of
to the
your early
party.
practices
Playing.
a guy had a smoke or
Yeah,
smoked a cigarette? Which
I think that was
tryout?
pre-practice, but
Okay,
yeah, it
still
was
Still gotta figure it out.
but
they need players.
yeah, we talked about
I think my eligibility just ran out.
No.
there's some eligibility here, but we talked about it a little bit, but football is a cultural thing in America and what it means to be in the sport and everything. So I'm curious kind of what it means to you guys, both from our junior Thunder, junior Pee Wee days on up to the Friday nights. So some famous songs about Friday Night Lights, famous TV shows about Friday Night Lights. The stuff about college football, the atmospheres around college football, and a movie like Rudy or tailgating on a Saturday is nothing like it. NFL Sundays. I mean, Austria and Germany, Europe in general, are getting a lot more of the NFL games as we see games in Germany and England. We get more and more of that here. People are watching games a lot more on TV. I know a lot of our players are huge fans of the NFL, but the reach is not as big. They don't know as much about college and high school. So I'm curious, kind of what you guys' thoughts are about, or just your feelings about kind of the cultural thing around football and what it means.
Well, I would say, unless you guys want to chime in first, I would say just in this area that we are, I would say there's two different areas. There's this area, and then there's what they call the north section. And I don't say small schools as a degrading thing, just numbers. They're just smaller country. They're out there a little bit and they're spread out.
Yeah, rural areas.
And it's very refreshing because the starting quarterback or the starting tight end, defensive end, right after the season, they turn in their equipment and they're basketball or wrestlers.
Yeah.
And then they're track or baseball. Whereas down here, and there's a lot of reasons for that, is, I can't do another sport. I have to train.
Specialization.
Okay, why do you have to train? And I have a lot of strong feelings about that, of not doing a minimum two sports, sometimes three. So I think that's what I've noticed here. That's growing more and more. Less and less kids in the bigger populated areas. They feel the competitiveness and recruiting. If I don't quote specialize in a sport and in that sport as a position, then I'm going to get lost because everything's on Twitter and everything's on these camps and showcases.
Max preps.
Whether it's the area code games or whether for baseball or football, yeah, it's nauseating. And it's interesting because there's so many different college coaches that I continue to work with in recruiting, and at least that's the last thing they're interested in. They want to have them play more than one other sport because they want to see them compete.
Toughness.
And, what's that?
Toughness. And that's why wrestling, I also advise people
and
to
it
wrestle.
develops so many different other areas of skill. Like they want to see you compete in a sport that maybe is not your sport, like wrestling, or hey, I'm a basketball player, but I'm having a hard time. I'm going to be on the bench. Maybe I'm the seventh guy. I'm the third guy in rotation when we're up by 15 because I can't dribble with my left hand. And how do you respond to that when a kid steals the ball? And they'd love to see all that because that tells them a lot about how this person will respond if they were to recruit them in football. So there's a lot of influence with recruiting and colleges that the fear, again, a lot of it's based on the parents, and that we have to specialize. You have to be the best quarterback. You've got to go to these rush defensive line camps. You have to go to all these things constantly to be able to get recruited. And it's a shame because that's not.
It's become a business at the youth level too.
That's all it is.
Club sports, traveling, tournaments, And we did it, Carson. We went to camps and did all kinds of stuff, training. But I remember a certain scout for the Indians once said, "If your kid's got it, we find him. You don't need to find us."
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
yeah,
some of the greatest players in the NFL currently um, were multi-sport stars, and they played a lot of other
Tom
sports.
Brady.
Yeah, Brady, but like Mahomes, Kyler Murray, these guys, were top draft picks in baseball, or they're basketball players out there. The guy I grew up playing basketball with, Eric Armstead, went to college to play basketball and football, ended up going to the NFL. So, it's, playing multiple sports. You develop in other areas, you compete in other areas. It's definitely a important thing that people look forward. It's helpful to develop an all-around skill set. And let me ask, so as another kind of more at football and kind of what distinguishes people, but when Daniel talked about it a little bit, the change that occurs from the high school to the college level, how players change and our just the talent level increases, the speed and everything. Same thing at college to the NFL, because you're selecting the best players from the previous level, right? So that's bound to happen. But at those levels, what sets out a guy? So at the high school level, what sets a guy that has equal talent or equal skill? What sets him above to be the next level, to be a better player than a guy that may have the similar, same amount of talent or same amount of skill? What's the things that really set you apart?
So I've seen it be multiple things. I played college football with DeAndre Carter, who is now playing. He just got traded to the Raiders, I believe, but he most recently was playing with the Chargers. You couldn't get that guy off of a football field. You couldn't find him in class because he was on the football field running routes, lifting weights. It just football meant something different to him. He's like, I'm not here to play school. I'm here to play football, and I'm going to be as good as I possibly can in every aspect. He was so much better at receiver because he watched so much dang film that he was a quarterback at receiver. He could see, what coverage they were running. He's like, this is where they're soft. This guy can't cover me for sure. I know that. So I'm going to look at the quarterback. We're going to change up the play because I know this guy's not covering me. So like that made him different. Just the sheer like I'm going to be the best football player in the world no matter what determination. And then I also my red shirt true freshman year, my red shirt freshman year, I was behind a quarterback named Garrett Saffron, who in practice I would make look silly. I was so much better than him. It wasn't even funny, but when those lights came on, it wasn't the same human. I don't know what mentality he went into, but he was just such a gamer, and I can't even speak as to what made him that way. I have no clue other than when those lights came on, you got a football player ready to go.
Yeah, and I'll interject too. There was a kid that your brother played with when he went to Bemidji State. He was a catcher. Yeah, Gunner. What
Gunnar Olszewski.
Olszewski.
Yeah, he's on the Steelers now.
Yeah, he's on Bobby's team. The Steelers was played for the Patriots. So, but I remember the first time I saw the kid. He was a catcher and a little scrawny, wasn't very big. I go, how the hell is that kid starting? But he was an animal, and I remember I think Jackie told me his whole plan was he wasn't going to Bemidji State to get an education. He was there to play because he played both at the university level, baseball and football, out of Texas, and so went to Minnesota to play. He was going to join the Army when he was done playing college baseball and football, and then I find out he signed with the Patriots of all teams. And he was a kick returner and safety. And just what made him different, he was a scrapper. I guess that's the best term. He wouldn't take no for an answer. He went all in all the time. And to this day, the first time I saw him, I go, "That's the kid you were talking about, the scrawny guy behind the plate." And now he's playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So you never know, and I think it's heart, mental attitude, and doing the work. You can't get away from doing the work.
Well, he was a psychopath. That's why.
I wouldn't call him a psychopath, but
crazy.
he loved the game, and that's all he wanted to do was play the game.
Well, he had 2 brain cells. One was for football and one was for baseball. Yeah, he just all he did was care about ball.
And he was fast. He was quick, fast, but he wasn't a big kid. But he worked out, built himself up. Not a lot of fat on those bones, man.
He's pretty big now. He was on that Daniel Niffen diet.
I mean, that's a thing the Bill Belichick Patriots have done well at, is find little white guys that
that's
know what to do.
Actually, one of the big reasons he was on the Patriots
was Belichick.
And he made him into a slot receiver because
Brady?
No, what's not
Amendola.
Just retired.
Edelman
just retired, and they needed another small white slot receiver, and Gunnar fit that to a T. And he was not afraid to throw his body
all the
in
time
front of the linebackers.
I'm shocked that kid never got hurt.
Yeah, no, he was.
But I guess it was because he was the hitter.
Yeah, no, he could.
Yeah. You know, Cars, I would say this, you know, the old cliche, hey, the great ones inspire everybody, others. And sometimes there's a division within the teammates of that. You know, always look at the late, great Kobe Bryant. You're never going to get the ball. I'll give you the ball one time, but I can miss shots. I don't need to pass it to you to miss the shot. So that's the cliche, the generic, hey, the great ones inspire the others. But I think the things that maybe the ones that we remember are not necessarily the freaks on the field, the amazing athletic talented ones, but it's very rare that a young football player taps into what they think is all they have. And they sometimes they don't understand their limitations and they push through that. And you look at that, it's like the undersized people that we're talking about, or you're like, he's a little bit shorter, a little bit slower, a little bit this, not quite measures up to what they call the measurables of the amazing athlete. But they're the ones that at least I remember as teammates, because when you're out there and you're feeling sorry for yourself when you're conditioning, or, don't these coaches understand how tired we are and how hurt we are? And you look over and you see that, I want to say like a Rudy-ish. They're more talented than that, but that's even more inspiring because you almost expect the amazing athlete to do what they do because they're just that much better. But I don't think I know the ones that I remember from high school and college and professional are those guys.
To add on that, we had a running back in college. His name was Jordan Robinson. He went up and played in the CFL. Just an awesome football player. But what I remember most about him is the kids showed no emotion, number one, ever. You could tell him, hey, your mom died. And he's like, oh, shit, that sucks. Like, it just never had emotions. But if you said, hey, we're going to line up, we're going to go 4 wide, and we're going to run a stretch, every time just head down, son of a bitch. He hated that play because linebackers are flowing full speed to meet him, out on the edge, and just absolutely hated it. But you couldn't find him one time not running full speed, head down, just ready to kill somebody. But you get him back in the huddle, it's like, son of a bitch. And then just right back, I'm going to run straight through that brick wall again. And like that type of mentality where it's like he knows this sucks and he's just willing to run into it full speed every time. It's something different. And I always think back and remember it. And I even try to think when I'm at work now, I was like, this sucks. It's like, well, Jordan Robinson used to think stretch sucked and he'd run into it full speed, so let's do it.
Yeah, that's good stuff. So I'll use this. I'll use this question as a transition point into getting to the stuff I think we're here for, hearing from some of the players here in Austria, some of the stuff they have. But as a lot of our guys are new to the game of football. They've never played it competitively, but they are fans of the game. And so for you guys who have played or coached a long time, I'm curious kind of a piece of advice or three important things to focus on as a guy that is new to the game, that may know it a little bit, but never had played it competitively. So really just kind of watched it from afar on TV and everything. What advice or what focus, like in practice, what are the things to focus on? What are the important things that a guy new to the game should be grabbing onto?
Well, I'll keep it simple. I think, and I do say this often, but to prove your value or worth of anything to a teammate or coach, work and work at your craft.
Show up.
Literally know. I'll just be. Let's say it's a tight end. Know where to line. Well, I'm fourth on the depth chart, and there's only 3 tight ends. So like that means you're not even like you're. But all of a sudden you pay attention. So that's the only way to bring value to the team. If you can say anything, I'm brand new. What do I do? How do I do this? Well, how do you bring value to your teammates? Because nothing's going to happen unless your teammates have any sort of respect or trust in you. You might be an asshole person, but if you can play and they can trust you, you're in. If you can play, you're in. Like, I mean, play. Like when the shit hits the fan and they know that you can ball, hey, you're one of us. We got your back. So that's, to me, that's how you bring value to your teammates and your coaches, is to work. I mean, it sounds so generic and vanilla, but most people on the field, I'll just say football because that's what we're talking about, they don't know what the dark side is. God forbid if they did it to the point of they threw up or they passed out. They don't know what true work is. And I would say that. Yeah.
I would
One
say,
thing I would say
Yeah.
is a lot of people come in to football and they think, I'm a quarterback, I'm a receiver, I'm a linebacker. Just don't worry about what you
I'm
are.
good enough to start.
Yeah,
I should get more playing time.
don't worry about what you are. Just go be a football player.
Yeah.
I started as growing up. I played running back my first year. Then I played quarterback every year after that. Then I got to a year where I played with a guy named Zach Sanchez, who went on to play cornerback at Oklahoma, as best athlete on the field at all times. This is still like Pee Wee football. And he played quarterback because you're going to have your best athlete at quarterback in Pee Wee football. So I went and played receiver, and I was the best receiver in the league that year. And like, don't worry about what position you're playing. You're getting to play football, number one. And that's something not a lot of people, just have the right to do and get to do. And just to add on that, in my high school, my senior year, I tore up my right shoulder. I came back, didn't have a whole lot in it. Logan Webb ended up starting the rest of the year because I didn't have a lot in it. If I would have said, well, I only knew how to play quarterback, I promise you, I would have ended up at Sac State. I ended up at Sac State because they're like, shit, there's a football player. He can go play receiver. He can go play corner if he needs to. We've got somebody who can play football. We need to just get him on the team. We'll figure it out. And trust me, I specialized a lot in quarterback, especially as you alluded to earlier with Coach Q, Coach Taylor, who's now at Stanford as the head coach there. But there was a competitive drive that still said, this is football, and I'm whatever I do, I'm going to go be the best one.
Awesome. Jack,
Carson?
you got any advice? Yeah.
Carson, I would say this also to jump on what Daniel said is when the moment happens, compete. Because, and again, not necessarily at all the positions, but the majority of them, it's still that one-on-one battle. And when this person is in, no matter what, I don't know, I can't find my ass with both hands, but they do know how to compete or they don't. And again, a lot of that's tied into self-confidence, et cetera, because I don't see that enough with certain players that feel like if you sit and turn around, I dealt with this a year ago at the school that I'm coaching at. And I literally said, I said this to the parent too. I said, tell me 2 or 3 reasons right now why you think you should start. And he could never come up with one reason. And I don't mean that like in a berating negative way, but I said, turn the table and say, tell us why you should start.
Yeah.
Show us on film, show us and tell us what you do in practice and on maybe a little bit of film that you have or the film that you have on practice. Show us, tell us, explain why we feel like we should trust you, or more importantly, why your teammates should trust you for you to be one of the 11 guys on the field. So that's it.
Yeah.
Simple.
Come off of Bob, and you had asked a question earlier about, I think, memories or the impact of football. And Sebs, we call him Sebs. I think these guys really appreciate him, and coaches make such an impact on people's lives. So, Carson, you're in a great position. It's an inaugural season, inaugural team. I would say the players on the team are going to remember you for the rest of their lives. So, I remember coaches, Jim Price, Coach Price, great impact, Coach Davis, and Coach Brown. And I'll remember them for the rest of my life. And it happened a few years ago when my best friend's father died. At the eulogy, my wrestling coach was there. He gave the eulogy, and he also became the football coach. But he said gave a great eulogy. And then afterwards at the reception, I went up to him, Coach Long, you probably don't remember me. And he goes, of course I remember you. And I go, well, I wasn't the greatest wrestler. Actually, that plaque, it's on the wall. Well, we were a dominant wrestling school. Football was kind of secondary, but Coach Long was probably the toughest, most disciplined coach ever. But we had such a successful program, and I guarantee you, everybody that ever wrestled for Coach Long respects him and loves the guy. We've kept in touch. He calls himself Old Coach now, but it meant so much that he was able to remember me and say, just that you were able to make it on the team, compete, and you've turned out to be a great adult. I'd question that, but so coaches impact kids' lives a great deal, and like I said, I remember it to this day. So even though he didn't coach me,
positively and negatively.
Yes, there's a lot of bad coaching.
1853.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Who invented the potato chip?
What's that, Jack?
Who invented the potato chip? That is
Jack, you got.
This is the potato chip in 1853 in Saratoga, New York. George Crumb invented this.
We'd be in the middle of wind sprints in the middle of summer, and then Seeds would out of nowhere, we're all puking our brains out, just go, who invented the potato chip? And we'd all just be puking, like, I don't know. George Crumb, 1853, Saratoga, New York. And he did that pretty much every day for years, and it's been ingrained in my head ever since. So
it is funny, Carson or somebody mentioned puking, and I don't know if you've had very tough practices yet, but I kind of feel like if you haven't puked on the practice field, you really aren't giving you 100%. I don't know of any football player that hasn't puked.
I don't know that I've puked on a field.
Oh, dude.
I was 120 pounds, so
that's true. There wasn't much to give up. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you see the guys puking in the game, so there's it'll happen. It's a part of the game. I would definitely say.
Yeah, that ended my quarterback career too as a concussion. So.
Yeah, so appreciate all the answers. We'll use this as a transition point. We'll get to the interesting stuff and meet some of the players. So I want to introduce, or we'll have some guys live call in. If you guys want to live call in, I put a link in our text chat for help with that. But I want to kind of tell you guys a little bit about our team and our league. So we are part of the ACSL, the Austrian Collegiate Sports League. Our university is Johannes Kepler University, named after the famous scientist or astronomer. And our team is the Astros. So we have not yet officially played our first game. We are joining the league in the next season. We've been practicing as a group since October of last year, so about a year of full preparation. But differently than U.S. programs, we practice twice a week, um, and so we've been practicing October for the most part about twice a week. We have on our roster about 45 players, so I'm very pleased with that.
How many
At
show up?
our practices are a little bit different, and that's part of the difference of the game. But we usually average about 20 to 30 players per practice.
That would
Um,
kill
yeah, it's a little bit of a different mindset, but it's how it is, and it's part of the
What's
growth of
the,
the
what's the
game.
reason for that? Is it travel to practice, or is
What's
it
the average age? Is there a
We're
youngest,
college.
oldest?
It's all college students, so I think our youngest probably 19, 18. Our oldest 27, I think. I'm not sure exactly on the age. But yeah, these are all college students, so everyone on the team is a student of the university. We're supposed to, at least. Um and it is definitely, I will say, it's a different culture, right? The priorities are different, and the university itself is different. So we all know universities in America are about that kind of sports life. That's part of the culture and the student life that it all brings. Where colleges in Austria are about academics. I mean, prior to the forming of the ACSL, there was no college sports. It was academics. That's pretty much all you go to school for. You don't live on campus. You live off campus. Campus is just about going to school, going to get some food at the Mensa, and then going to Mensa Fest on a Thursday. So
The Men's
um,
is a restaurant
Mensa's
cafeteria.
a cafeteria. Yeah, Mensa Fest is a party at
Oh,
the on-campus
the kids
bar.
do live on campus. It's just not dorms like funded by the school. They're private dorms that are
They're not
near.
they're not on campus. Yeah, they're near the campus, but yeah, it's just it's different, and so the ACSL was founded back in 2017 by a gentleman by the name of Lawrence. Lawrence has spent a semester abroad at the University of Kentucky, so not necessarily a football school, but he was luckily there during the Anthony Davis era of Kentucky basketball, and so experienced college sports through the lens of basketball at Kentucky, and wanted to bring that back to the ACSL or to Austria because he loved it so much. He loved the experience, the what went on, at what you were like, what life was like as a student on a campus with sports involved as well. So he brought back that idea to Austria and brought it to Austrian universities. They built the foundation in Vienna. So Vienna has 5 teams in the league, 5 schools that participate in men's basketball, women's basketball, and football, as well as cheer dance. So they have a cheerleading, cheer dance on the sides as well. Um, and so we're building this league. We're the sixth school to join the league. We're the first school outside of Vienna, so we're a pretty interesting project where our school is a little over an hour away from Vienna. So we're the first team outside of the city to join. And so some of our players who have been practicing with us have played the game various degrees, but most of our guys, I think, are new to the competitive aspect, playing football, tackle football on the field. And like my dad mentioned, most of everything is self-funded. So I think that brings a level of passion to fund yourself to play the game too. Where you're not getting equipment and everything uh, provided to you. You're doing this because you want to play, you want to enjoy the game. So um, that's a little introduction about the ACSL and the JKU, the Astros who are here. So
Why don't you tell the
um,
guys the other teams? I think they'd get a kick out of the names.
yeah, so the other teams in the league, you have the University of Vienna Emperors. So they are the big school in the league. I think they have about 70,000
It's right
students.
behind you.
Yeah, pretty against that.
Yeah,
Not
that was a
not the same
baseball.
Emperors. Yeah, that
Yeah,
was a
different.
baseball team.
Yeah,
We also have the Technical University of Vienna, the Robots. Um,
makes sense.
we have the Business University, which is the Tigers. the medical university, which is the Serpents. Makes sense because of the serpent and the medical profession logo thing. And then we have the Boku, which is a environmental university. They're the bees, Boku bees. So those are the other 5 teams, and then our team is the Astros, named after a famous scientist and astronomer, Johannes Kepler. So we're a space themed space mascot.
So
We have a duck.
who's the dominant team out of those teams that was in what you guys call the Summer Bowl, the championship game that's in the summer?
Yeah, so for most of it has been the University of Vienna Emperors. They're the biggest school. They have the most players, and so they tend to be the most dominant. But right now, this season, it's actually the business school. The Tigers are leading this season. I believe they just beat the Emperors. And then the robots are also very competitive. The bees and the serpents are at a level down from those two. And especially because those 2 teams on a game day will have in the neighborhood of 25 players on the sideline, or 25 to 30 players on the sideline. So, but they're competing, and that's what's very cool to see. I really liked the last time I saw the Serpents play. I really liked what they had because they only had like 27 players um, on the sideline, I believe it was, but they were competing hard and against a better opponent. But a couple, miscues that go their way instead of the other team's way, and they may have actually won that game. So, but they came out on a Saturday and competed. Had a lot of fun. So that was cool to see.
Have they
Um,
announced your first game, your inaugural game yet?
no, nothing yet. All we know is it's in October. Is our first game is when it's expected. So, but yeah. So if anyone wants to do a call-in, I believe there's some way for our audience members to call in and join the podcast. This should pop up my host screen here, but wait for those. But do you guys have any questions while that occurs? Um, for me or anything
Carson,
about
is it the same rules, same time clock? Is it college, American college and high school clock time, or is it more NFL?
college? Yeah, it's college-based rules. So everything college-based. So we use NCAA rules.
Where do you
And
get your officials?
through the I think they're coming through the AFL. So the Austrian Football League. And the AFL is a sanctioned league within Austria, and they do a lot of our
What jersey is he wearing?
rules and officials are Austrian Football League, which is the semi-pro league of Austria. All right, so we have Leon here. Thanks for joining us, Leon.
Hi, guys.
I'll give
First
it
of
to
all,
you.
thank you for sharing your experiences with us and the advice you gave us so far. I have a question for you, and I don't know if Coach Carson mentioned something. We will probably have our first practice game in around 4 weeks against the Med Uni Serpents. And I wanted to ask you if you have any special advice for us for preparation, like a week before our game. Should we focus on something special or just advice in general?
Carson, you might want to ask the question. So here,
Yeah. He was asking. Leon was asking. So we have our first um, scrimmage exhibition game coming up against the Serpents. And Leon was asking about kind of preparation the week ahead, preparation on game day. What do you guys think is important to prepare for this, first on field against another color um, game that we're gonna have here soon?
So the game's going to happen a lot faster. Whenever you get the other colors in there, a lot of the stuff you've learned are going to fly out of your head, and the good players know how to keep what they've learned and the fundamentals they've learned. Um, going
instant.
while the speed of the game has increased. But it's going to be a lot of fun as you play more and more. The game slows down. But that first one, it's going to come at you really, really fast, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
I bet it will be.
Yeah,
We are
like
very
the week
excited.
before the game. How should
Okay.
they prep for
Hey,
it?
hey guys, I've got a couple things to add on that. Kind of jump on what Daniel was saying is the hardest thing at any level, except if you're at a high level, is the scout look. You know, what are your opponents? Can you really understand what your opponents are trying to do against you? And you're probably not going to be there yet because the great ones, like you talked about the Patriots, but it's very rare that they consume themselves with their opponent, and they really consume themselves as far as what they do best. And it sounds so trivial, but the fundamentals, when shit goes sideways, like Daniel was saying, we keep to the basic fundamentals and we have a shot. But how do you simulate that in practice with the speed? I would say, I mean, we always do this because we always battle the quote scout team that maybe aren't even half the talent as the starters. So you're really not getting that simulated during the week. And all of a sudden you get in the game, you're like, holy shit. So to prevent the holy shit or a little bit less, you have to put your guys in a position where what we do in practice is maybe something is already halfway where the defender, let's say you're on offense and you're trying to accomplish a certain route scheme or a tackle, a half line against a certain front, where you start halfway in the drill where you're already at a disadvantage, and then you start it to simulate the speed. Because you're not, maybe this, I'm not sure if this is making sense. It's going to be impossible to simulate the speed of your opponent if they're very fast, and your scout team players can't do that for you.
Okay, thank you for
And
that.
Carson, and I'll tell these guys, do you guys have scouting reports on the other teams? I know you attend their games currently. I mean, do you scout the other teams?
There will be when we get the lead, they will do film share. They have
Oh,
film
there is
share set
film.
up. Yeah, we
Okay.
have film share, and that'll occur. So yeah, there is an element of scouting. The depth of that may be not. I mean, it won't be as deep. So another thing to mention is I am one of two coaches currently on the team. So
Yeah,
I'm the offensive coach, and I have a
he's
partner in
offensive.
crime.
The other guy's defensive.
Yeah, I have a partner in crime who is he used to play semi-pro here in Austria, and he is the
No,
defensive coach. So we're a coaching staff of two right now, so we have a lot of trust in our players to do all they can outside of and alongside us in practice, because as you guys know, as a single coach, you can't coach every position to the fullest extent.
not till October of next
What
year.
position do you play, Leon?
Oh,
I'm playing wide receiver.
okay.
I'm rather small, so I'm not fit for the O or D line.
So a lot of what you'll need to know as a wide receiver is it's very tough for a quarterback when the wide receiver does not know the routes. So when a play is called, you got to know exactly what you're doing. Um, I think a lot of times when you get into like your Sierra camps with Rockland High School, like the first thing that goes for receivers is they lose the plays. They forget where to go. They forget where to be, and it's impossible to make your reads as a quarterback when your guys aren't in the places they're supposed to be and not stressing the defense in the places they're supposed to stress them. So I would really take a deep dive into the playbook if I were you. Make
Yeah,
sure that you know the plays inside and out. An easy way that I always did it was I'd get poker chips and I would make, I don't know what type of offense y'all are running, but, I'd make a center uh, little poker chip guard, and make all the positions. And then I would have somebody give me a play and I would make everybody, I'd go one by one through all of everybody's responsibilities. Now, as a receiver, I was a quarterback, so I needed more to know what everybody was doing. As a receiver, you need to know more of what you're doing and what the rest of your receivers around you are doing, because you're not just running a route just to run a route. You're running a route to put stress on a defense in a certain area. So you're not always, the target of the play, but you still play a pivotal role in it. So always be where you're supposed to be and run the right routes and run them at full speed, even if you're not getting the dang ball. That's a big mistake receivers make. He's going to throw it over to the outside receiver that's taller than me, so I'm going to run half speed on this. You never know what's going to happen. Run your routes at full speed.
The extension on that is when the defense shows you one thing, but pre-snap, what Daniel is saying, that route is maybe a deep dig route, or you're trying to run a 7, like a post corner, and the safety's bailing on a cover 4, and you're like, oh shit, well, that's not going to work. Do you have the ability to break the route off? And that would be the deeper version of the original play, to say, hey, we're check with me. If they're bailing the receiver, and this is what the not late grade, he's still great, not late, Hines Ward did at Pittsburgh, he would just break the route off, sit, Big Ben would throw it to him. But the original play was designed to maybe he's running a quick slant or a dig or different route combinations. I'm not sure what you do there, but Hines would just break his route off. Well, shit, they're going to give me a 6-yard hitch. I'm not going to keep running a 7. I'm just going to sit down, boom. And then once you catch it as a wide receiver, do you know where to spin? Because if you spin inside and the safety's coming rolling down on a cover 3, you get knocked in the face, as opposed to spinning away from them once you catch the ball. And those are some things that the receiver coach should be teaching, or as a wide receiver you'd want to be aware of.
That's why I'm talking a lot with our QB, so that he explains to me the routes and the coverages, why he has thrown that pass to them, and so I can understand better and help the QB to get open, or if a play is broken, what should I do to help our QB?
Yeah.
But thanks for the
Play
advice.
breaks. If the play breaks down, if you're short, run long. If you're long, come back to them
until the whistle blows.
That's the best thing you can do if the play breaks down. Don't just stop. That's a quarterback separating his right shoulder when everybody just stops.
I think they said the shorter the ride, the longer the car.
Yeah. And I believe, Carson, you've said that you've got 2 pretty good quarterbacks on the team, right?
Yeah. We have our quarterbacks on our team are our most experienced players by far. One of them's been playing quarterback for I think 9+ years. So,
wow. Now, Leon, have you played football before?
No, I'm just a big fan of football. I'm sorry if I'm too quiet. Can you understand me?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, I don't know what I should do. I can try speaking louder.
Yeah, that's good.
That's good.
Okay. No, I'm a fan of NFL since 5 years. The first game I watched was a Kansas City Chiefs game with my dad. That's why I'm a big Mahomes fan.
Yeah.
Hey, Leon, you look better. Hey, Leon, you look better in a Steeler jersey. Shit can that Chiefs jersey, okay?
I have a Timo Samuel jersey also. I can switch if you want.
God bless you. I love you.
Yeah, it's actually a funny thing. As football has grown here in Europe, the first televised football games in Germany were of the Seahawks when the Legion of Boom was at its height, and so Germany has a huge following of Seahawks fans because the Legion of Boom that was the era for them. That was the first televised games were Legion of Boom games. So you see a lot of Seahawks fans, and as it's growing a lot in Austria and Germany right now, with the younger version with Leon and guys similar age, Mahomes and Joe Burrow jerseys are popping up a lot. So you see a lot of Chiefs and Burrow jerseys right now.
I saw a lot of Niners jerseys when I was there.
Hey, Leon, I have a question for you.
Yeah, please.
Hey, Leon, are you there?
Yeah.
Do you currently have a helmet and shoulder pads?
Yeah, they got their equipment.
You have them?
They don't have their game set yet, though.
I would say when you're out there training with your friends, like out by yourself, and you're always catching and you're running routes just at the park or something, do it with that on because your vision's restricted. And do you ever do it with a mouthpiece in?
We actually did that, yeah, yesterday. We went
Good.
to a grass field and played some one-on-ones with helmet and pads.
Yeah, and it also helps to just wear your helmet
Yep.
around the house for a while. No, I'm dead
I
serious.
know.
Because your first practice,
Yep.
and you're out there for 3 hours, the neck starts getting tired, and you end up being a lot more sore.
You get the thing on your forehead.
Yeah, I used to always, leading up to the season, I'd wear the helmet in the house for a couple, probably an hour or two a night.
Or when you're driving or you're mowing the yard.
not
in the
then.
front yard.
Yeah, not then.
What about out on a date?
And when you become
I can play that.
amazingly skilled, then you turn the helmet around and then drive the car, but with the helmet turned around. That's when the vision is completely, you become like water.
Yeah,
I would try
one
that
of the things-
tomorrow.
Yeah, one of the things too, I'll mention is so because I'm like the only coach teaching offensively, I've delegated a lot with our QBs and use their knowledge. Because for me, outside of a coach specific to being a QB coach or being a wide receiver coach, the next best thing, the next best coach on the field to coach receivers is the QB in my opinion. So like that's a thing we do a lot, and that's a thing I emphasize and let them go free a lot on is getting the QB and wide receiver on the same page, that mindset together, the timing, the instincts, like having that all coordinated is such a valuable thing. So
So a team like the Emperors, how many coaches do they have?
they have like 4 to 8 coaches I've seen on their sideline. I
Okay,
think
so you're at a disadvantage.
yeah, and I believe the Tigers and the Emperors maybe too. I saw the Tigers for sure have headsets for their coaches, so um, I don't know what they're using them for, but they may have a coach up in the box upstairs.
But Leon, I'm excited
Yeah.
about your first game because nobody knows about the Astros. They see you in the stands right now, but you have the advantage that if you guys work, you're going to win that first game.
We are also excited because of our practice game we maybe have in 4 weeks. For us, it's also a statement game. Like we want to show the ACSL we are not only cannon fodder for them. We are really out there to win the Summer Bowl.
Yeah,
We are
show
really
up and
really
play.
excited. We can't wait these 4 months to go. But Mr. Bob,
Now,
I
Leon,
had a
are you just playing receiver? Are you going to play defensive back at all on defense or just offense?
we will have 2 positions. I will have DB as a second position, and I maybe want to go for a punt or kickoff returner. But we had not that much special teams practice, and we saw at the last games that special teams is really important. The Tigers won the game last time with 30 seconds left just because of the special teams. They had a pretty good return and made the field goal because of that. So I think if we really focus on special teams, we can uh, win with that too.
Thing that I would always ask, Leon, so ask yourself, hey, if I was playing defensive back against me, what would cause me problems? And think of it from a defensive back perspective as far as some things that would help you in your, what Daniel said, route running. Are you rounding things off? Are you can really tell when a receiver is going or not. In other words, are you really tightening up your gloves? Are you really focusing? Can you see your calf muscles getting ready to roll because you're ready to spring out of your stance? So you're going to
One
play
of
defensive back also.
Yeah, and one of the things I do as a
I
receiver,
think they have to just because they don't
Numbers.
have a very deep roster. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I think that one of my most mistakes I do are the body catches. I still have problems with them. That's what Coach Carson also tells me a lot. No body catches,
Yeah, you got to have
and
soft hands.
yeah, you talked about competitiveness. Timo, our star cornerback, joined the meeting, and I love to go against him because like he's the most athletic guy on our team. And if you got a catch on him on a one-on-one, it feels pretty good, and you learn a lot.
Is it like a Turkish bath in here?
It
It's
is
a
hot.
little warm, yeah.
I
thought it
would
was
turn
just
up.
sitting
No.
next to Jack.
Yeah.
All that heat.
I see Timo joined us, so if you have a question, Timo, go ahead.
There's a lot of cholesterol in this room.
He may be bouncing back in here in a sec, but one of the questions coming from our running back, one of our running backs. So I know, Bob, you're a coach that is, as a linebacker coach, you're playing against running backs a lot. That's a lot big focus for you. And then Daniel, you're sitting in the backfield with a running back. So from your perspectives, what do you see as tips or different things that really hurt, or for Bob that hurt you the most from a good running back, or for Daniel that helped you the most, having a good running back by your side?
Oh, I kind of didn't get it. It was a little garbled. What was that?
Okay, I'll take it.
I didn't.
So the things, and obviously, I'm a quarterback, so the thing that helped me the most with the running back was
Keep that
one
in
that could pass protect and know where, when you set up, if I know I'm taking, middle linebacker to weak side linebacker and I'm on this side and I can trust him to do that, I don't even have to look to see if the rush is coming. I know he's got me. Another thing is a running back that hits the hole hard every time really, really opens up the passing game, because it's sometimes you can have your scat backs that scare the defense if they get out, in the open, but they don't really have to be worried about taking one in the mouth with you coming through the hole. And so when they're geared up to take one in the mouth, when you have a running back that's hitting the hole hard over and over, you throw in a play action and it just really opens it up for you.
Sorry, Carson, I didn't catch what you're saying, but I did now. Daniel talk. So I would say what gives linebackers difficulties, against a running back, like what Daniel said, he hits the hole quick. He doesn't dance, and there's very few guys that can do that. And still, the guys like Le'Veon Bell and stuff aren't playing anymore. Barry Sanders, and also they're at the point of contact. They're always falling forward, always, and at some point the running back doesn't realize this, but every single time when the linebacker hits the running back, and the running back continues to fall forward just a half a yard or a yard, it starts to wear down the linebacker. Psyche, everything. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't break this guy's spirit. He's still falling forward after I tackled him. Man, and that slowly starts wearing you down. I would think that's what you were asking as far as what gives us
Yeah,
problems.
that's what I was asking, and
Yeah.
that's something I have constantly been telling my running backs, and I will tell to them until they punch me in the mouth and tell me to stop telling it to them, and they'll tell it to them some more. But to get downhill, don't run horizontal, run vertical, because horizontal running as a running back is a waste of effort for a lot of stuff, and vertical running is where the real work gets done. So uh, I'm glad you're backing me up on my stance there. So I appreciate that. And then we'll go over to Timo here. So Leon just mentioned Timo, but we'll jump over to Timo.
So he's your best defensive player, Timo?
That's the vote. There's some audience members out there, Hungarian gentlemen in the audience that may argue, but the rest of the guys here, I think, will throw Timo.
Come on, Timo, you got to step up for the Austrians. You can't let the Hungarians win this one.
No, not for sure not. Yeah, thanks Carson for the introduction. As they already mentioned, I play cornerback, and of course I always try to be the best in the team, so like everybody else, giving everything in every training. Coming to my question, so we didn't have a game yet, and we don't have any game experience. So my question is, maybe you can share some experience about the dirty play, like what the refs can't see in the games. I already read something about it in theory, like pushing and grabbing some things, and you might have some experience you can share if you understand the question.
The
Well,
gray
if the ref
area.
can't, it's not a penalty.
So whenever you grab a jersey, pull it into you.
Yeah.
Pull it in tight to you, because the refs have trouble seeing that, as opposed to if you're reached out holding a jersey running around like that. So anytime you get hands on somebody and get to
Gotta be
grab
close
them,
up.
grab them and pull them in.
Well, they always call the flag on the guy that throws the second punch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I always like to be the aggressor. Yeah.
You know, I would say that I think I hear some anxiety about the October 1st game, and the more from basically now until that moment that you can simulate some sort of a game experience, whether it's loud music in the stadium, things that you stress to your player, or you stress your players as a coach, or you guys purposely try to push the envelope and kind of push the trigger on a certain player to see how they'll respond. I.e., like after a play in practice and you have the music blast and the guy pushes the guy in the back of the helmet, does he turn around and start swinging? And unless you start doing those things, you're going to have 6, 7 guys kicked out of the game the first game. It's an emotional game, and usually those that play emotionally controlled to a point usually end up winning. Again, I go back to the one-on-one battles in the trenches. The running backs being able to follow the lineman. Well, the lineman's so pissed off because he got pushed behind, the back of the head, so he forgets the snap count, or he's not back a little bit because he's pulling, or he's not close to the center. All the different little things that give you the edge because you're still pissed off because that other guy pushed you in the back of the helmet 2 plays ago. They called your wife or girlfriend, blah, blah, blah. So that's just going to come with time. And I hate to say it, it's never going to change if you're wired that way.
It's controlled violence.
Well, yeah, you have to understand, okay, consider the source that's doing it and say, hey, what are we here for? But if you don't actually, sounds weird, not practice fighting in practice, but if you don't have certain guys that can push buttons on certain guys way before your October game and talk about it. That's the big white elephant in the room. Talk about it. Say, hey, they're going to come after us. The refs expect to get screwed by the officials. Just say, hey, that's going to be part of this game. We're going to get hosed 7 times tonight or today. And say, cool, let's just move on.
I would also say,
Do you guys want
I-
a chip?
I asked Carson about how you guys reacted once you got your pads, because going back to when Carson, Jack, and Daniel played youth football, we're talking 8, 9 years old. You could always tell the new kid that had never played football before because he didn't want to hit anybody. He didn't want to tackle anybody. Once that first season's over with, then you want to go out and hit. You want to tackle somebody. You want to engage. So I know Carson told me a little bit about some drills you guys had with Oklahoma's, and it took him a while to get you guys to understand what was needed of you. So it's an aggressive game. I call it controlled violence. It's fun.
Yeah, Oklahoma is a little bit different from the era they were originally created in, but the same mentality. Yeah, the same mentality and the same mindset is there. Just control, more controlled than violence. We're trying to keep it controlled, but still have some violence.
So are you guys starting to understand how to hit, why to hit? I mean, are they
It's getting there,
intimidated?
yeah. It's getting
How's
there.
Timo
but
doing?
Timo is good. Timo is good. That bastard can tackle good.
Yeah, I got some experience playing rugby when I was younger, so I already had a bit of
Oh, good.
experience with
Yeah.
that helped me a lot.
Wow. Guys?
I would just say get over the anxiety of getting hit. If you're like a first year player, never really gotten hit by someone in pads, it's never as bad as you think in your head. But then also hitting someone with your pads is more fun than you would ever expect at full speed.
Yeah.
I like to, once you get over that hump, I always start to just throw my body at people, and it's fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, just get over that anxiety of it. Just do it. Don't even think about it. Just kind of, sometimes it's better just to not think during the game and just do. Get over that emotion in your head and just let your body roll with the punches, I guess.
It's a great stress relieving. I mean,
yeah, human body craves contact.
That's where the where you get the your plays, your assignments, your things to do mentally, and where when you get to that point where you know it so well that you just let your body take over, just playing football, and you know how to execute right off the bat. That's stuff really starts to click.
when it becomes
So,
instinctual, I think you're going to have it.
Yeah. I think Leon had another question for Coach Bob.
Coach Bob, I have a question for you. Was there any player you didn't want to play? Like many people didn't want to play Ray Lewis. Was there any player for you? Like a running back which you didn't want to play because he hits so hard or he runs so fast and is strong?
Was there a player that I like? Oh man, I don't want to play against this guy.
Yeah, like that.
I would say never in college because the guys that I lived with, the way no. But I would say my first training camp with Houston at San Angelo State, I remember we actually did hit. Back then you were allowed to hit, and we hit and we hit. And my first Oklahoma drill, the offensive tackle, he's Pro Football Hall of Fame. The guard. The tackle was the Outland Trophy winner, and then so was the center. So all three of those guys, two of the three guys are in the Hall of Fame right now as offensive linemen. And I got caught up in the scenery, and I got caught up in the where I was instead of saying where I played. The linemen were. It sounds crazy, but almost probably bigger than some of the NFL guys. And when you, it's hard to explain the Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio State linemen because most of those guys were from those schools or Nebraska. And so to answer your question, Leon, it was more. I caught myself saying, "Oh my God, I'm in awe. I'm going against this guy." It'd be like going to basketball and you're with the Warriors and you're like in practice with Steph Curry and you're trying to guard him in practice. You're like, "Oh my, how do I make it? Like this is Steph Curry. This is," instead of saying, "Wait, I deserve to be here. I'm going to kick your ass." But I didn't have that right away when I was that age because I was 22 and I was like, "Oh shit." And so I would say that would be probably those two guys, Mike Munchuk and Bruce Matthews, his younger brother Clay, and whatever. It's a very high end, very accomplished family in the pro football circles. As is Mike Munchuk, who played at Penn State, and of course he's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame as a lineman.
We had my true freshman year, he was a defensive end at Sac State, and then my sophomore year on, he was a linebacker. But my redshirt year, my true freshman year, that was the first year I hadn't played football since I was 5 years old. So when springtime rolled around and we were getting into spring ball, I asked our coach, like, "Can I go live? I haven't." That was the first year I've ever not played football. I need some contact. I need to play football. And having that guy out there who he'd moved at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and it didn't matter if you had the ball in your hand or not. If you'd thrown it 10 seconds ago, he was going to put some hands on you. He'd throw hands around linemen and just smack you in the back of the head as you're playing. I hated going against that guy. Hated it. He just won the championship with the Renegades for the USFL. Also, still playing.
Nice. Yeah, there's always
Actually,
those.
Carson, it's not a question, but Daniel, because I remember at the tailgate party at Sac State, Daniel played with an Austrian who I believe played with the Vienna Vikings.
I think he played with the Vikings.
Yeah, what was the kid's name?
Alexander Milanovic.
Yeah. So he's actually played with some Austrian kids.
He was really good too. He was actually they had recruited him because of his size. They did one of the those outreach camps where they do a football camp in the middle of Europe, and he showed up there, and so he started getting recruited because he was massive. He was 6'5", 300 some odd pounds, and he was pretty athletic. So they ended up offering him a scholarship and brought him over. They had to pay like 3 times the amount of a scholarship than a normal U.S. player.
Really?
Yeah, because they were legitimately getting him, from overseas. It's not like he had moved here to go to high school his senior year and then get.
But did Sac State have to lose 2 slots, scholarship slots?
It was just the price was higher. They didn't lose, this same amount of money.
Did we lose Leon Timo?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think they're still listening.
Yeah, they're still listening, but they just dropped off the video.
Hey, Leon, I got sitting there when I was listening to Daniel talk, I started thinking about your question a little bit deeper, and I don't know if people think of it this way. I certainly did in college because the tight end at Iowa, Jonathan Hayes, played 11 years in the league with the Chiefs in Pittsburgh. And they always had this stand-up tight end, and Jonathan was 6'6", and I just remember because of the coaches I had and my roommates who were at the time I didn't think so. I look back now and they were very unbalanced, very aggressive roommates, and they were some of our better players on our team. But I think back of my mindset then was always I can't wait because the guy that every time when we played Iowa, he was a second round pick, and like I said, he played 11 years in the league, Jonathan Hayes, and I kept thinking I can't wait to play at Kinnick Stadium, or I can't wait till the Hawkeyes come, because it's either going to bring out the very best in you or the very worst, because they're so good. And I think if you look at it that way, instead of, oh my gosh, what am I even doing out here? Just look at it as an opportunity to say either the best or the worst. And you'll definitely know after the end of the game.
Yeah, it's such a point to put a spin on kind of the most feared players, but instead of fearing them, it's wanting to compete against them, and changing that mindset of, is this guy gonna drag my performance down, or is this guy gonna pull the best out of me because he's the best competition I'm gonna see? So it's a good thing to spin a situation into a helpful point of view and a helpful way to look at kind of that instead of a negative effect. Any other questions or any comments from the guys? Feel free to chime in. I know you talked about Austrian players. There's currently he was a first round draft pick last year, second round by the Colts. I think it's his first name is Bernhard Reimann. Plays for the Colts. He's a starting tackle. I believe they're also coming to play in Germany this coming NFL season, so that'll be a cool, not really a homecoming for him, but a cool thing to be back in Europe playing, for the NFL. He is also a freak athlete. He's a 6'7", 330-pound athlete. So I think they grabbed him for his size. So that was something I see, and I know they're pulling a lot more players out of Europe and Africa. I've seen 4 draft picks from the recent drafts, or 4 signees coming from Africa, which is pretty cool. So that don't see any other questions in any of my chats. See, I had a couple other ones. I guess another question for Bob. I know we have some linebackers listening in. I'm not sure if they're able to call in. Um, but as a linebacker coach, kind of what are the key principles, like the big things to look at, and maybe reads, and maybe it's who to key on plays, communication with your guys, because a lot of middle linebackers are the key quarterbacks of the defense. But what are the kind of the top advice or tips you may have for a newer linebacker trying to master a difficult position?
That's an open-ended 2-hour answer, but I would because it depends on so many different moving parts, and so I'll try to keep this concise. Don't worry about alignment at all. And again, I don't know what numbering system you use. Hey, if I'm in a 30 or a 50 alignment, outside shade of the guard or head up on the tackle, etc. Don't get wrapped up into that. It's all about production. And to get to the simplest basic form, because there's so many different ways to teach this, is the person somewhat is instinctual enough to be able to say, I can diagnose and go try to make a play. And I don't want to engage with the big fatties up front. I always say, don't get pulled to the pork. Like, the end result is still, I got to get to where the ball is. The linemen, if you want to talk about the linemen, they want you to engage with them. It makes their job easier. They don't like movement. And that it's a very, very simple answer because it has many different layers underneath that. But it's going to be very difficult to play and be successful if you don't have some sort of purpose of why you're out there as playing that position. Like, if I don't like to go get people and tackle them, I'm probably not cut out to play that position. And that's a really simple answer. Very, very simple answer, but there's very, very few that say, oh yeah, I want to go run and tackle that guy. And how I tackle him to break his spirit is a whole different deal. So just the basic, like, okay, I think I can shoot, the play's here. So I'm able to kind of be able to diagnose fairly well, naturally, without getting coached. And as long as the coach doesn't get wrapped up in all the little tiny things right now, year one, and try to maybe focus a little bit more on, okay, at least he was productive for what we're after. I don't know what you're after, but productive to that person might be, I made the tackle, but it was 4 or 5 yards downfield, but I made the tackle, versus what they call a TFL, tackle for a loss. Or it was third and short, and I still made the tackle on third and 4, and he made 4 yards. He got the first down, but I want to kind of say, okay, the positive is at least he held on and made the tackle. I'm not going to say there. You could open up a book or go on Amazon and read a generic book, Linebacker 101. A linebacker, these are the qualities and characteristics of a bullshit. Being able to say, hey, I think I could diagnose this thing and go make the play. And try to avoid all the big fatties up front, because they're holding cheating bastards anyways. That's how they roll.
Hey, that's a key to football. As a defensive coach, every offensive player is cheating. As an offensive coach, every defensive player is cheating. That's how it is.
That's how you guys roll.
Yep.
You know the snap count. You know where the play is going. You know the snap. We have no. Think of all the advantages.
Better looking.
I would say if the guy says, "Hey, I want to be a football player," they want to go on the defensive side of the ball.
That's a provocative statement.
He's the offensive coach, man.
Messing with you guys.
Actually, it's an interesting thing. interesting thing that it's as we've gotten new players joining us and trying out and wanting to join the team, the majority of our players have tended to go to the defensive side of the football and wanted to take on the defensive challenge. So I'll give you that. A lot of our new guys have adapted to the ugly side. So,
The dark side.
To the dark
yeah.
side.
So
We call it
for
the dog side. Come to the dog side.
So a question in the chat by one of our wide receivers, and I know neither of you are wide receiver guys, but you have played against them or played with them. But what do you think is the definition of a good wide receiver? A wide receiver that can hurt you?
There's a couple different types. There's the guy that can blow the doors off and just run by you, and your Tyreek Hill, where every play you're terrified he's going to go for 70 against you. And then you've got more of your tactician that really understands what the defense is trying to do, where they're weak, where they're strong. Um, like Coach Sebs said earlier, um, you're probably not there yet because it takes a ton of practice. But the guys that can break down into holes of the defense, and I mentioned DeAndre Carter a little earlier. I didn't really have to make my typical reads when he was on the field because I knew he knew what I saw and he knew I knew what he saw and he was going to break down right where it needed to break down and we were it was 10 yards every time no matter what we just started calling it an open route where it's like, hey DeAndre, just go get open. That's what we're doing. We're running the open route. And there's such tacticians that the defense can't really stop them other than giving pre-snap looks that throws them off. Mm-hmm. But again, like that guy and guys that are really good are so good that they understand that they're probably not going to see what they're seeing before the ball snaps. And they see guys rolling and they see guys moving and they see soft spots that they know the defense isn't going to leave soft. And that's what really makes and obviously you got to be able to catch the ball. You got to have good hands. But yeah, you either blow the doors off them with your speed or you fully understand what the defense is trying to do and where you'll need to break down in your route or how you need to run your route to get somebody else open. I hope that's kind of a lot there, but my preference was always the tactician. I hated the blow the doors off guy because you throw a safety over top of him and I never played with someone that prolific as a blow the doors off the top guy that it was still scary.
Carson, I would even a really simplified answer, like let's say one of the guys are okay, but what can I do tomorrow? Do I run 10 routes? Do I run 75 or do I run 180 tomorrow night down at the park? Well, I've got 40 minutes in between studies or whatever. Do I really use cleats? Who's watching me? Is anybody, my girlfriend, videotaping me? Am I watching how I run with my hands? Does it take me a while to kind of decelerate, plant, and then go back into quote your route? Or are you starting to do that naturally? Because so many people say, oh, I could do that. Or why can't I do that? Well, because you don't even work at it. I get back to Steph Curry. You see him make these shots, but he shoots like 3,000 of them a day. So it's just part of his. It's like an appendage. It's part of him. So I don't know how many times those guys are working, running routes. It sounds so simple, but actually running. Are they in shape? Are their hamstrings, quads, abductors, everything? Are they doing it again? Are they having somebody in front of them pressuring them? And if they're not doing those things, then in October, it's going to not be pretty. You're like, well, why would well, we never worked at it. For 6 months, what the hell did you do? Well, we didn't do anything. We waited till football practice started in August. So I know it sounds really basic, but what could I do tonight? Well, it's going to be late now. But tomorrow over there, they could start. I'm sure they've already doing that. I'm assuming they're doing that already.
Yep, definitely. Yeah, it's definitely like working the extra, but yeah, the basics being excellent at the basics of football really sets you apart. And once you're excellent at the basics, you can move on to the harder stuff and the more advanced stuff. But if you're excellent at the basics, you don't have to worry about doing that stuff because it's just natural. You're saying definitely. I think that's all the questions we have. We're almost in the 2 hour mark or so, but
Wow.
I'll just leave asking one thing. If you could give like one last piece of advice again to some Austrian kids in college, going to football practice a couple times a week, uh, playing their first scrimmage game coming up here soon, playing a first game in August, their first time playing competitive football. Um, one piece of advice that comes to your head that you may have. I'll leave that to all four of you too. Dad, you can jump in as well.
No, shoot, I've talked enough. I'm babbling.
Drink water beforehand, not during the game. Because if you're thirsty to the game, it's already too late. You're going to cramp up. So the first cramp is always the worst.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to cramp up and it's going to hurt. So stay hydrated the week before. That's the best easy advice for newcomers, I guess.
I would say kind of more on thinking back on football is you're going to remember these things for the rest of your life. Do you want to have to make up the story of how good you were? or do you want to put in the work to be telling true stories of how good you are? Because you're going to say how good you were one way or another. But what I'd say is if you want to actually be the guy in the story you're telling, put in the work. And you're going to have a blast. And like I said, you're going to tell the story one way or another. Might as well make it true.
Daniel pretty much said it. Jack gave some advice. Mine's more of I have an expectation for you guys. Austria's our second home. Carson's obviously your first coach ever. So I'm going to try and be there for that first game. And my expectation is to come away with a win. And I think you guys have the talent. Listen to Coach Carson. Listen to, I don't know the other coach's name.
Coach Mike.
Coach Mike. So you've got a couple of good quarterbacks. I think you have some talent on the team. But you got to buy into the program. You guys are the inaugural team. I mean, you could actually make history like your women's basketball team did. Their first year, they become the champions of the ACSL. I'd love to see the football team become the champions of the first inaugural season for JKU. So that's my expectation. I'm going to be there for the win in October.
Carson, do you guys have you come up with some sort of a theme or anything for next season that's coming up?
Are you talking like a UPC?
Well, more like, hey, like what your dad said. Hey, why not us?
No, that's a good one. I don't think we have.
Don't do UPC,
guess,
please.
If you don't know, that's a reference from when we played football, and yeah. But that's a good one because when I was playing in our state championship year, we had a really good one for a friend and fellow student guy who couldn't play football. Jesse Leinbach was a big inspiration for our team then. But I guess a good one, it's kind of in the back of everyone's mind. Some of the guys talked about it a little bit, and we talked about it. That we're the outside guys. So Vienna is the dominant city in Austria. They have a quarter of the country's population, and they are, like my dad will say, Viennese people don't refer to themselves as Austrians. They refer to themselves as Viennese. And they have a mindset against people not from Vienna. And Linz is the second largest metropolitan area in Austria, but we're also kind of the the guys from the mountains, and the guys from the hills, the uncultured people. So I wouldn't say we have a
You're basically saying you're Austrian rednecks.
yeah, fundamentally we're the hill
Daniel
people, the hill
relates.
boys.
There, I didn't.
Yeah.
You can't say that.
Yeah.
But that's
How about,
kind of been a motivating factor.
So Carson, I would say a little bit on what Daniel was saying was, are you going to have seniors, or is it going to be only like Frost Soft that will be on this first year team?
It's everyone in the mix. Yeah.
There's guys. It's not really seniors, juniors, Frost. It's guys that have played football before, like their quarterbacks.
Okay, let me ask you though. I would say this then. You always want to go out, like we talked about the stories and so forth. How are the guys going to remember you? Like if this was the only year that you're playing, what memory or what are they going to say about me? And this is these guys. Each person's asking this question. What are they going to say about me as a player, maybe as a teammate, and
like Leon
is like Leon, Timo, the guys that are there. Like, hey, that is a badass son of a bitch, but a terrific guy. And I'm so glad I want to be able to play with him on the field. Like, what else could you ask for? That's it.
Yeah. I mean, I'll add on that a little bit. Is we had a guy at our high school. His name was Logan Alf. Kid was never going to see the field ever. He wasn't gifted with athletic ability. Wasn't gifted at being good at football. But that guy gave 150% effort at everything he did. And like when I think back on football, I was like, holy shit! Like I don't know if I could have done that. Like if I knew I wasn't going to play no matter what, I don't know if I could have given Logan Alf effort. Yeah. That's insane. Like it doesn't always just even correlate to being good at football. It's what can you be proud of?
Yeah.
So one last time.
Yeah.
What's the name of the team? Your first game?
They don't know yet.
You don't know yet?
They don't.
Yeah.
Okay. So what?
We have a game in about a month's time against the Serpents medical school.
It's a scrimmage. They won't have their official unis yet. It's a scrimmage during the Summer Bowl, which is their championship. Hey, Carson, I was trying to figure out what to wear, so I wore this shirt for you, obviously. But I thought about this. Have you shown the guys the video of Virginia Tech's heyday, the entrance, Enter Sandman? You should think about that.
I believe so. I believe I have. I was gonna say Daniel and Bobby brought up a good one. It immediately reminded of one of the hype songs from back when I was in high school. And Daniel and Jack, you may know the song, but it's from the legend. It's from the legendary band of Fort Minor, called "Remember the Name."
Who's that? I don't know. What is that?
And it may be a good motto song. So
you get like Wolfgang Ambros to write a theme song, pump you guys up when you enter the.
Remember the Name. I think eludes a lot of what Daniel and Bob were saying. And they do some math in there too with percentages.
There is some math.
Yeah, 100% reason to remember the name. So,
all right. Was it?
So yeah, we may have to pick up that song, and that may be a motto. But
something to pump you guys up for that first game.
Also, Bob, the team has decided already to try and fund you for a 2-week all expenses paid trip to Austria for you to participate in a training camp.
Clinic.
Yeah, they want
you.
Hey,
luckily they all speak English because I don't think your German's very good.
Man, I'll tell you. Well, you're gonna know this, and this will tell you where you are, Carson. So when you find out who you're going to play in October, do you guys tell the team, or do they all find out together? Like, how do you find out?
I think they just
they just post the schedule.
They post the schedule, yeah. Because I've been looking on the website.
So let's say it's the robots. Could it be the robots?
Could be,
right?
Yeah, it could be.
probably one of the lesser teams.
We
Is it-
we don't know. I mean, it's one of 5. It could be the Robots.
Well, the Emperors will be in the championship game. Who's not in the playoffs? You think it'll
No,
be?
but
Who's,
it's in October, so the championship.
oh, I was
won't
thinking of the
matter.
scrimmage. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, but I mean, it could be the Emperors. You know, the Emperors are the found. You could say the
I'm talking about
founding.
October.
Okay. I would think they're going to schedule you with the lowest seeded team, just
We don't know yet.
because.
Yeah, it could
Yeah.
be anyone. But I like the idea
But
of the
I would
Robots
want
in a
the Emperors.
challenge. Yeah, the
Yeah.
Robots present a challenge too, which is they're a solid team. They
So you
They're
know the
always
question I'm going to ask. Let's say it's the Robots. I'm just pulling that out of my butt. The first thing they're going to talk about, people are going to say, "Oh gosh, should you guys play the first game?" And most of your players, and they're going to say, "Oh, we got the Robots." So you're not there yet. You say, "No, they got us," and that's when you know you've arrived.
Yep.
Yeah.
Perspective. Good. Well, that's a good one to end it on. I thank you guys all for joining us and talking to some of our players. Dad, you may have to pack Bob in your suitcase and drag him with you when you come out for
I
a
think Bob's
game.
scared to travel.
And Daniel, Jack, thanks for you guys for joining. We appreciate all your advice and speak for the players too.
You do know if he puts on a clinic, I need to be there to manage him because he could get out of hand.
I think they'll come back with a lot of trivia knowledge, and they will be an incredible trivia night.
Remember George Crumb.
1850.
So-
Jeez, tough crowd.
He's
And Linzer beer.
85% of the answers.
What's the bar in Illinois? We've been there. The one with the smelly.
Cams. No,
Cams,
It's
oh,
not
God.
there anymore.
Oh, it's
C.O.
not?
Daniels,
Oh.
they tore that down, and now it's like a real estate office. Everything's changed.
Yeah, we're getting off on a tangent with talking cams and.
Yeah, we'll finish. I'll sign off from the Witt podcast. I appreciate everyone coming
Cheers,
on
guys.
and joining us.
Till next time,
Yeah.
we'll see you guys in October for the win.
Come, baby.
I'm going to Vegas to put money on the Astros. All right.